I would like to introduce you to Lady Bird Johnson, and I hope that after you hear my speech that you will come away with a better knowledge and a better appreciation for all the wonderful things that she did to beautify America, and especially to beautify the state of Texas. She was born Claudia Alta Taylor in a very small East Texas town that sits on the border of Louisiana and also borders Caddo Lake. She was born in 1912, but by the age of 5, her mother had passed away, so she was raised by her father, her 2 older brothers, and her dowager aunt. She was often teased as a young girl going to school. She was teased for her hook nose, and she was also teased for her unusual nickname. And she was often labeled as being the town old maid, which of course she turned out to be anything but the town old maid. At the age of 16, she enrolled and attended the University of Texas, and at 19 received her degree in history and went on to earn her teaching certificate. As a gift from her father, she went to Washington, D.C., where she met Lyndon Johnson, and he fell in love with her immediately. Some people say he fell in love with her money more than he fell in love with her, but that's still a matter of debate. And they married after a 5-week courtship. In 1963, President Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson at that time was his vice president, and at that point in time Lyndon Johnson became president, and Lady Bird of course became his first lady. She never really wanted him to enter into politics, but she supported him and financed many of his campaigns with, of course, her own money, because Lyndon didn't have money of his own or means of his own. One of the things that he and Lady Bird promised former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy was that they would continue her beautification programs. That was one thing that meant a lot to Jacqueline and continued to mean a lot to Lady Bird. So they did that, and even though the Vietnam War was raging and civil rights unrest at home, even though all those things were happening, they still felt that beautifying America and beautifying especially their home state of Texas would bring a sense of happiness and well-being to the people there, and I believe they were right in this. The Congress did not agree, however, and viewed Lady Bird's beautification programs as trite and unimportant when so many other things were going on in the world. But they persevered, they hung in there, and eventually got legislation passed to where states were responsible for cleaning up the nation's highways and byways. One thing that she did when she was First Lady of the United States is she wrote a book called Lady Bird Johnson, a White House Diary, because she felt it was important to document all those wonderful historical things that were happening in the White House, and she definitely had that advantage to do that. And she published that book in 1970, and I remember my mother going to the department store in Austin and standing in line so that she could buy the book and have Lady Bird autograph that book for me, which she did, and I have that and I treasure that. Another resource that I used was Mrs. LBJ. It's a wonderful book, and the other one is Lady Bird, a narrative by Mrs. Johnson by Jan Jarboe Russell, who does write for the Texas Monthly. And these are wonderful books. You can just sit on a Saturday afternoon and read them and really appreciate what history was like in the early 70s. I hope that you will again come away from this presentation with a better knowledge and love for the wonderful person that Lady Bird was. And when you drive through the nation's highways and byways, and when you, especially in the state of Texas, when you see the bluebonnets and all the wonderful Indian paintbrush, all of those things that are in bloom, and the roads are cleaned up, well, that's all because of Lady Bird Johnson.